Okay, Bryce, you want to?
Sure. Welcome back to Where the Ramp Ends. I'm Bryce.
And I'm Summer. And today we're joined by two members of the Oklahoma legislature who are helping lead important conversations around disability policy in our state. We have Representative Nicole Miller and Representative Ellen Hefner with us to talk about the Disability Caucus, why it was formed, and what it's working on, and how it's bringing lawmakers together across party lines to better understand the needs of Oklahomans with disabilities and their families. So, to get us started, I'll let you guys each briefly introduce yourselves, and then Bryce can get started with questions.
Sure.
You want to start, Representative Miller? Tell us a little
Oh,
bit about who you are.
yeah, Hefner's really I'm her wing person, so we'll let her go first.
Oh, thank you, Representative Miller. But this doesn't work without your support and help with this. But I'll start by introducing myself, Ellen Hefner. I'm a representative from House District 87, which is Northwest Oklahoma City. I am a parent. I have three kids, but my youngest child, William, is the one who got me up to the Capitol 21 years ago to advocate for Oklahomans with who have a disability. You want to introduce yourself, Rep Miller?
Sure, I'm sorry. So I am Representative Nicole Miller, was elected in 2018, and so I just completed my eighth session. I represent House District 82, which is Upper Northwest Oklahoma City, West Edmond, and Deer Creek. And this is just been such a pleasure. I'd say, goodness, 3 sessions ago, Representative Hefner came to me and said, "Would you be interested in co-chairing the Disabilities Caucus with me?" And the interesting thing about my journey, and if you've ever been involved in any of our Disability Caucus meetings or participated through virtual, you probably hear me say every single time that it has just been such a blessing. I was happy to help, but I didn't realize how much I was going to get from it because of the people like me who I don't directly have someone in my family. It's not a direct personal connection, but I would say this: I have had a lot more interaction with constituents now because they know I'm the Disability Caucus chair, and I've just been able to learn and just be much more involved. So it's been a great
Right.
partnership.
Agreed. It was 3 years ago that Representative Boatman, who we had both served with, had started something or talking about a disability caucus. But he said, Ellen, and I, getting to know you this first session, he said you would be really a great person to do this just because of the bills that I was bringing up and the conversations I was having about being a parent of a
Sure.
child with a disability.
Sure. So for our listeners who may not be familiar with what it is, why was this created and why are you guys so passionate about having a disability caucus?
So I mean, as an advocate before I ran for office, educating legislators and even people who work at an agency about that door in, like, passing bills and thinking that it's really great, but the parents or and then the adults the with disability are the ones that are trying to figure out if it works for our lives. And so educating legislators has always been a part of what I've done. And so with Disability Caucus, it's presenting something that people don't really understand about, and bringing adults, children, parents, whoever it affects, and having them tell their story. We all learn by stories. And so
Yes.
I think that we were sort of hitting that everyone, and they blame term limits because we have 12 years that agencies, pretty much tell the story. Well, that's not so true with our with us, right, Bryce? We
Right.
want to tell our story. And so how do we get that out there? And so this caucus was really a great platform to try that on. And we would have it real early in the morning and we wouldn't have as much of an attendance. But I tell you, things don't just always start with with fireworks and a big buffet and everyone comes. We want to build that momentum that they keep coming back and saying, what else am I going to learn? And I'm very happy to hear that, Representative Miller, that you have learned and that there are more constituents that see you, that you're listening. And that's the stuff that I think that we just pass on to everyone else that we work with.
You know, that's one of the main reasons why Summer and I wanted to do this podcast, is because we felt like so many stories, not only in Oklahoma, but nationwide, with individuals with disabilities weren't being told. And we wanted to be the platform to tell those stories and give them the opportunity to share their stories and experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Like my son is now 21. He'll be 22 soon. And, I always ask if I can, talk, about him. And because he's an adult, he can, he doesn't want me talking about things that would be a barrier for him to me making friends.
Right.
Sometimes parents, kind of lead in and always take over after adult. I'm that one who's always balancing risk and safety. And when William shows up, and he has my son William to Disability Caucus, he'll tell Pete, he'll go, and he'll raise his finger, and I go, "Oh, am I overstepping?" Okay, so it's good, and our relationship now is great because if he lets me, I could take over his life, and that's pretty much how with people with disability is that's always looking for someone else to say, okay, no matter what age. But for William now, he's got a voice. I mean, he
Yeah.
can't stray from these genes. So it's nice to see him give me because I need to know, our relationship is
Right.
developing just like my other two kids on how he's going to be an adult without me being here.
That's
I love
beautiful.
that. I love that because I was just talking about this the other day about how important it is to tell our own story and not to try to tell other people's stories for them. So the fact that you're letting your son, and that he's setting that boundary with you,
It's
that
It's great. I mean,
it
with
is.
humor, I'll always say, "Oh, that's what you want." Okay, thanks for telling me. Because like it or not, and it doesn't have to be me, but we have HTSs or other people that work with William. But whatever laws that we develop up there, or what application, or how it's read, or if he can do it, someone else still sort of has to support him. So for me now, my advocacy is the door in with the support of William, but
Right.
he's still making those shots. And something that we talked about in Disability Caucus that we did a part 2 on, and then I ran a bill, and hopefully I'll get Representative Miller's help that will really get it. I'm doing an interim study on supported decision making, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But it's because of William that as he grows, we see the pieces that we have to put in place.
Well, you kind of answered my next question. So just Bryce, for your FYI, I'm skipping to the next one, okay?
Hey, you're good.
Because that's been
So,
covered.
what accomplishment of the Disability Caucus are you individuals most proud of? And I can ask both of you guys this question.
Yeah, I'll start on this one, if that's okay. So several years back, I had a constituent come to me, and she is with the Autism Association of Autism Oklahoma chapter of the Autism Federation. Am I saying that right? I always sometimes get these a little mixed up, but she had been working on, just from her community and her interactions with her group, on a designated autism, some sort of identifier on driver's license and state IDs, totally voluntary. And so it took us a couple of years to get through, and it was a really, really good experience for me to just go through that process. I mean, there's so many pieces that touches. I definitely would say that. And one of the things that I learned, again, just hearing stories. Again, it's not for everyone. Only those who would decide they want that. But things like, if you're in a law enforcement interaction, my blood pressure raises a little bit if I get pulled over, but I can imagine how much that would be just magnified if you communicate differently,
Right.
and so, you can see how maybe that's taken of, defiance, or they're not wanting to respond to me, when it's not that at all. This person is processing in their own way, and they're trying to figure out how to communicate back. And so that's one thing that I got involved in first responders really, really supported that. And that kind of led into, it's interesting because this is our third year. I can't believe third session, right? At Representative Hefner, I always kind of did the transportation piece. So let me back up a little bit. So at the Capitol, it's kind of like being in college. I always say, like, you do all your general education classes, but you have your major, your area of focus. And my area of focus is transportation funding. And so originally, like, I would typically, it's okay, we do our planning sessions, I'll spearhead the transportation and et cetera. But it's really been neat to see just more of the interaction from constituents, and just more I've learned that's broadened out a little bit. So we did a little bit on the different programs and just different tools in the toolbox that have to do with the subject matter, not only the voluntary designator, but like the blue envelope program that a lot of the municipalities are implementing, and some other things like that. But I would say for sure too, that we have gotten some huge gains and huge wins in both transit mobility management. And I can talk a little bit more about that later, because I get so jazzed up and excited about where we are with that and where we're going with it.
Yes.
So
happy you brought up transportation, because that's usually we could, as parents, we're frustrated, or people with disability, that we're frustrated about a system or an agency, but really transportation is usually a root cause of sometimes why those things fall apart. And doing a really good job with especially an employee that looks like we're going to be covering most of Oklahoma. We still have kinks to work out, especially local stuff, sidewalks and ramps that aren't there and all that other kind of stuff. But it's something that is part of the conversation, and it's a part of healthcare conversation as well. So I'm really happy about that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Representative Hefner, because that's one of the main reasons why I became a public speaker and a disability advocate, is to advocate for those things, because transportation is a huge barrier for my brothers and sisters with disabilities. And if you guys need any help, with that and kind of, ramping that up, I would love to, serve, as my own personal story of how I feel like my life could improve with more transportation, opportunities, because I feel like the more we give the world the ability to live, the more the disability disappears, because they see them as just regular individuals.
That's exactly right. We all need support, and sometimes the support that you need is different from mine.
Yes.
But yours is something that if you're not sitting on a city council, or if you're
Right.
not legislating, or they're not including you on where to put those ramps or where to put those sidewalks or
Right.
curb cuts, then then you're still not getting the transportation you need. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate you saying that. If I could say one thing that I really loved about the first year that Disability Caucus was opening up, I talked about it for 2 years, and then it became law. But the Oklahoma's Promise was excluded for people who had intellectual developmental disabilities, and so bringing all these students from
Right.
Oklahoma State University who go to the Opportunity Orange Scholars Program and tell their story about why this is education, why it is
Right.
needed for them to get a job. And so we opened up Opportunity Orange Scholars. We opened up Oklahoma's Promise so that people with IDD can get the state tuition paid. And it was
Amazing.
a beautiful bill, and I'm happy that people now are looking at that when they see going to college. I will tell you, more people have come to me and told me, my son goes to Oklahoma State University with that program, and a lot more say that don't have a disability say, we always thought it would be good to teach William, and invite him to things, but they say, we have learned way more. And so that's what's important. Like you said about seeing you in community, there's no institution that's for any person with a disability. We don't want them to open up again. We want them to have jobs. And so,
Exactly.
yeah.
so that's really the goal of all of this, is a job.
Yeah, and I will tell you, right, Pepper, that's a huge win. And again, we all have stories, and that's how we connect with people. And I think it would probably be okay if I mentioned her. My son graduated in 2024, and he was on the homecoming court with Josie. I think you probably know Josie Kahn.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the homecoming queen. Yeah, he was not king, but she got queen. She's awesome, amazing cheerleader, Deer Creek, and all the things. And she's gone on, and I think she's now completed Opportunity Orange. But it was really only because of Rep Hefner's work that she was probably one of the earlier ones to be able to take advantage of that.
I blame Josie because she came up to the Capitol not once, not twice, but 3 times and did public testimony. And I personally asked him, and Dr. Tucker, who works there, I mean, you know, Bryce, your voice is important. My voice is different, but important. But I could tell William's story, but man, he tells it so much better. So the changes that have been seen in, I mean, Josie's family can talk about it. And one of those main things is, like we all know, that we've kind of turned away from this word, but being included, huge. It changes who we could be depressed or not live a full life. And our life shortens when we do not have human interaction. So bonus. Yep.
Exactly.
You know, we just had Patrick Schwartz on, who does partnership.
Yes. Making, yeah.
Yes, we just had him on as a guest, and he said there's absolutely no studies that show that separate is better.
I love that.
Inclusion benefits everybody. So
Yes,
separate doesn't benefit anybody.
No.
And so that's I was able to share that with legislators. I just got back from DC, and being able to say that is just like amazing. Like there's no indication that separating people with disabilities and people, without disabilities is positive thing. So we need inclusion everywhere.
Partners in policymaking really opened up my eyes, and shout out to Jen Randall for the work that she does. But I didn't understand until I really got into my advocacy journey that how far we have still to come.
Oh yeah.
And I shared in Partners in Policymaking, and that's one of the main reasons why Summer and I became friends. I said that if I wasn't in a chair with all the college degrees and life coaching certifications that I have, I would already be making well over 6 figures. But since I sit in a chair, I don't get the opportunities. The world doesn't see me as a functioning member of society.
Yeah, your Dr. Bradley Mays came and spoke in you may want to stay tuned. We have 14C task force. You know what 14C licenses are? That's sub minimum wage that we allows individuals with disability to be paid piece rate. If I don't do you know about piece rate? I think I've talked to you about it, but it's horrible that we use, especially with our motto in the state of Oklahoma, that we're still not looking at the dignity of someone's
right. Exactly.
Put them up against someone who doesn't have a disability that keeps them from working. And so Dr. Bradley Mays came and testified in 14C. We wanted people that have a job that has a full wage, that gets paid a wage or gets sub minimum wage. And every time we ask the question, which is better, they always say, well, I get more money if I get a full wage. I mean, think about it. They know what's right, but the people who employ them are not giving them what they're worth.
Exactly.
And Dr. Bradley Mays was just eloquent with all of his degrees. He's same with you, and he's got a really nice job, but it took him a while to get there.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that we're still teaching those stories and hoping everyone will listen.
I would love to, do anything that I can, Rep Hefner, to help my community and help you, because we're in this fight together, and we're going to be continuing to fight the same fight if we don't get people in there with lived experience that are pushing the rocks, like your son that wants a life and stuff like that. We want the same life as able-bodied individuals. We want to be seen as well. So whatever you need from me, Rep Hefner, I'm in it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I'm sure Rep Miller, we have more things. We haven't discussed our agenda for next year. There's a couple things that we do know that we always do is transportation's one.
Yes.
We're going to talk about supported decision making, which is an alternative to guardianship. We have it already in statute that it's there, but we don't have a framework. So we don't want it to be abused, and we want to give that to people with disabilities like my son, who does not want me as a guardianship. He wants to as a guardian. He doesn't need it. And
No.
so if you don't need it, you shouldn't have it. But he does need support. And what does that look like? And so there's other things, but definitely we'll reach out. Right, Rep Miller?
Well, absolutely. And I don't know, this might be one of your next questions, but we were talking, a little bit before we got on here, and we were talking about really what advocacy looks like, but effective advocacy. And do you want to know the only reason why I know anything about 14C is because I could pull it in my file right here of when a constituent reached out to me, and it is like gold when constituents reach out to us. Please, please, we need everyone to reach out to their legislators and tell their story. Guy by the name of Bryce Wooten had no idea who he was, wrote me an email, and it actually, his biggest is he had 3 points. The one that was the most prominent, and his priority point was 14C. And emailed back, we got on a phone call, and that is literally how I met Bryce Wooten. So so yes, these are huge issues, and please contact your legislators, because otherwise we just won't know. And so that's just, I was like, case in point.
Yes, I love that you said that, because we really do. On Where the Ramp Ends, we have several podcasts where we have people like Jawanda Mast with the National Down Syndrome Congress, and just moms that have been effective advocates for their kids. And we want parents, we want to encourage parents and people with disabilities to reach out to their legislators and build those relationships.
Yes.
Jawanda was talking about the fact that she started out as an advocate for her daughter. She's like, I'm just a mom. And she helped get the ABLE Act passed. And her daughter was the first one in the state of Kansas to open an ABLE account.
One of my favorite laws, one of my favorite federal laws. It's so good.
And it's just, she said it's all about those relationships. So to hear legislators say what a difference that makes coming from both sides, I really want people to hear that, because that really is, we can get on social media and state what we want, but that's not going to guarantee that our legislators are hearing us, and we need to use our voices effectively.
Oh, ABLE accounts. I'm glad you brought that up. It's that next step in like human rights. How do we change the platform from 19 clickety clack on how to save money?
Right. Exactly.
As a financial advisor, I remember those days when I talked to the treasurer, Ken Miller, so we could have an ABLE account here, that we partnership with another state to have ABLE accounts. And I've done that all across the state, but I don't have time to do that anymore because I got this other job. But I do, we have a new state treasurer. So when I saw her yesterday at the chamber lunch, Rep Miller, I saw her and I go, we need a meeting on ABLE accounts, because that's the next step for jobs. How do we save money, and how do we keep our benefits? And so we have all these things that we have to do. And I'm not passionate about this job or what we do. I am urgent, because time is ticking away.
Yes.
And I'm not going to be here forever. And William needs those supports for the rest of his life, not just William, but his friends and you. And I think that if I'm urgent about it, and with help from Rep Miller, we can help change things here in Oklahoma.
What are the biggest?
So we all know disability impacts Oklahomans from every political party. Have you seen the caucus help build bipartisan relationships around disability issues? Do we want to skip that question? I can edit stuff out.
If it's to me, if it's to me, I would say that my only goal was to, I'm a relationship person. I really want to know, how's your wife, how's your kids, or you got a new grandbaby, that's how we develop to figure out.
Right, sure.
So when I started talking about my family, I found out that other people in the caucus specifically, my caucus, but the chamber had friends, family that had a disability and would ask me for help. And then so that was my first year. The second year, it was like building trust. Like I got to be clear. I no misinformation. Have to make it not maudlin. I don't want to, oh, poor disability if we're trying to talk about jobs. And so this last session, this last year, this last session, someone said, I told someone, thanks so much for your vote. And they go, oh, you've built that trust with us. And that right there doesn't mean that, I think disability is not that's not a partisan issue. And
Right.
so I've always treated it like policy. And if Rep Miller can, say yes or no to this, but I've tried to build that trust. And then, of course, when they meet my son William, and he's as sarcastic as I am, that they know that it's a life that that in a group of people that we're trying to support a population. So it's different. I would say, what do you say, Rep Miller? I don't know.
Yeah, and my just kind of my input on that was I could give you a real practical example of so I'm very, very excited that first time ever in the transportation subcommittee for appropriations and budget, so just the budget side of things for transportation. We actually were successful in securing $2 million in the budget for ODOT, and ODOT about 3 years ago, about 3 years ago, actually created a new position, and they have a mobility manager. And we literally went from 3 years ago to nothing. And now we're across, arguably across, 67% of the state, and we are moving forward. And that looks different in different parts of the state. And that's why it's so important that we have a mobility manager who is creating those relationships and helping to work with what's already out there in some of these communities and just enhance across our state and some continuity. But I would say this. So the way it really truly works on transportation subcommittee for A and B is we get together as a subcommittee and we talk about, like, we hear all the agency submissions, at the beginning of the year, but we talk about what are priorities for our caucus. For our subcommittee. And then I then translate that up to the full committee chair and vice chair. But all that to say, it truly is at our subcommittee level. And if it was not for Representative Archer, who is a Republican out in the southwest part, Weatherford area and such, up that way, if it was not for him being such a proponent of SWOTA, and that's his organization out there. So he had mobility management is a top priority for me in my district. And then Annie Menz, who is a Democrat from Norman, and Jacob Rosencrantz, Democrat from Norman, are also on that subcommittee, and them saying it is a priority for our districts and our communities as well. Because then that gave me, you had, quite frankly, it wasn't like it was just this small subset saying we want this. You had 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and as the subcommittee, we all decided that mobility management was a priority. And I know it maybe not sound like a great feat, but in a relatively flat budget, at least we weren't doing cuts, but in a relatively flat budget, to get $2 million for mobility management to enhance that was a big deal. But you know what? That wasn't just Nicole Miller, and it wasn't just Ellen Hefner and us through the Disabilities Caucus, really also just sharing that message. If it wasn't for all of us working together, regardless, like you say, this transcends Republican or Democrat, regardless of that, that's how we got it done, truly.
And then, of course, with all that work that was done with the rural health transformation plans that were coming out with money, now that's part of SWOTA. And now they're growing that over there because that's for rural health, and transportation's a piece of it. And so, like, all of that sort of swelling in less than 3 years.
No, it's really
so much.
Yes.
And so really, I just think the momentum's there too.
That's a great way to say it.
Whether we're talking about education, employment, healthcare, or community living needs, where do you ladies see the greatest opportunities for improvement in the disability community?
Oh, Rep Hefner, you might want to start on that one.
I think I like to look at the goal. So I'll miss things in front of my toes, I'll tell you. So it's the goals, and so I build towards that way. I think a job and is the goal. So if we're starting at transportation, we are really making some movement on that. Even locally with the bond that we got in Oklahoma City, and it'll take a couple of years, but crosswalks, sidewalks, in the right place and bus ramps, and then continuing with having that conversation downtown in Oklahoma City to help with that bus route, so all those things are happening. And so but the goal is a job. So I sat next to someone at the chamber lunch yesterday who works at a big, I don't want to say the brand, but it's big. And so I just asked, do you hire anyone with disability? That's what it's going to take. And he goes, no. And all of a sudden you see, and I go, oh, wait, what if it comes with a job coach? What if it comes with someone who may need some support, but you'll not have to onboard because this person's going to be, this person's going to work at a job. Have you ever thought about it? And so putting those little drops in there and then following up with an agency that could support, I think that's where I'm trying to focus to that employment. It's making employers know that they can hire.
For me, coming at it from the perspective more of, learning about it and from not a personal lived experience, I would say that I think a lot of times that, we talk about disabilities in more the K-12, which is so incredibly important. But for someone like me, I think that I've really been, if I just say a big takeaway from this year, just in the journey of Disabilities Caucus and the work we've done, is I don't think that was ever as poignant to me of what about after 18, and
Yes.
that has been huge, whether it's transportation or employment, all the things, and what does that look like, and how do we prepare, and supportive guidance. I'm sorry, tell me the term again. I know we've talked about it, but like, you're right, like
Making.
different people need different things, like, and to realize that there's so many different nuances, and you're all individuals, and what one person might look different than the other person. But how do we into adulthood? I think that has just been something that's just been really pretty impacting for me this year, and really I only know that from being around y'all and sharing your stories, but I would just like to continue on of learning how to work with you, everyone, and legislature, and your groups and everything, of how to help address that.
So if there's one thing one thing that every Oklahoma legislator understood about disability, what would it be?
I would say how incredible the community it is. I mean, just like we're talking, like, just wonderful people have so much to offer and so much to give. I mean, it's like I said, it has benefited me so much more than what I ever even realized. It's like, oh yeah, I'll help you, Rep Hefner, I like you, and the things, and really just the richness that I've, the benefit that I personally have gotten out of it, and like Rep Hefner said, the momentum that we are really starting to build. But just the people, I just love it.
Oh, let's see. Gosh, there's so much, but I will say that my life is, I mean, it's still the same. I still have a child with a disability, and he kind of gives me a headache sometime, but my other two as well. You know what I mean? But for me, it's all about, it's very normal for me. But showing other people that it is normal. Like,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be anything special. It's not something that that we just, it's how do we support it? And our job as legislators is to figure that out. And so if they listen to people with disabilities, and with working with agencies, because we need agencies, but I think your voice is strong, and I think parents' voice is strong, but they're exhausted. I mean, I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. And waiting on the phone for 259 minutes for one of our agencies because we have to do something so that he can have services, that's too much. So how I wish one thing that agencies would know and legislators could learn from is that agencies are there to support people with disabilities. Let's try to find a way that the agencies can work with people with disabilities and what their schedule is. If they want a job, they're working 9 to 5. If they have a job, they're off on the weekends. How can we figure out how to serve people with disabilities with transportation schedules, and then we may not have people find such a struggle so that they can enjoy a little bit of their life. It's exhausting. So I think that like I said, 19 clickety clack platform, how do we change that? And so and I think it's time to change. It's going to be hard, but I like a challenge. Let's go.
Yes. Amen.
With,
Strap-
with Rep Miller's help. So I just signed you up for a lot of work, Rep Miller.
Oh, you know what? I love working with you.
Strap in. Let's work.
I think, you say parents are exhausted. I don't think people do realize how exhausting it is. And I was I called Bryce the other day because some things were happening online, and then that I was advocating online, and I was also contacting a reporter about a certain subject. And I called Bryce and I was like, I was going to take the day off from social media and from advocating and just like clean house. And that didn't happen. And I told him, I'm like, I know I'm preaching to the choir because you've been doing this your entire life, but it's so exhausting because it's either, legislative policies that are coming out and you feel like you need to stop and call your legislator, or you need to call and make a doctor's appointment or deal with the insurance company. It does feel like it's just nonstop. But I do feel like people
It's
don't
not
realize
a complaint. Being exhausted but it's not a complaint. I do it anyway. I mean,
right.
I don't change anything. William gave me a sense of advocacy, and here I am as a legislator to try to help other families. But I think that we all should work smarter, not harder. So there
Yeah.
are
With
different ways
that.
to do things, and I think that we need to pay attention to that. We want a healthy Oklahoma. We want to support workforce and jobs. So how do
Yeah.
we do that? And in mind that some people need a little bit more support.
I agree with that. So my final two questions for you lovely ladies are: imagine a child is born with a disability in Oklahoma today. What would you hope their life would look like in 20 years from now? What do we need as a community to make their future as bright as possible?
I mean, I would be the first one to say that I have got a lot to learn. I mean, hopefully that we keep just chipping away, chipping away. It's not going to happen overnight, but some of the things that Rep. Hefner has brought up. And I would say too, and again, we were having a little bit of this conversation prior. I can't imagine, like from my perspective, really not. I'm learning about this, but all of a sudden one day being, having to try to navigate all this, and it's overwhelming. And I think that I don't know. I guess just from a mother's or parent's perspective of trying to imagine what that's like. In addition to raising kids it's so rewarding, but it's a lot in addition to everything else. And I don't know, how do we make that easier? I mean, I don't know what all the answers are there, but how do we support the parents with that? Because I'm sure I can't imagine. It's got to be very overwhelming and so much. And so I guess how do we? You're right. How do we support you better in that? I think that's to make then the children lives better and productive adults. I guess that's what I'm trying to articulate.
And before you answer this, Representative Hefner, so just a side question. The caucus is available for people to join via Zoom.
Yes.
It is. I'm going to make it a point to start joining that.
Yes.
And so
As
I
well.
will.
As well, yes.
Yeah. So for me, 20 years ago, well, 21 years ago, I would say having a child with a disability, oh my gosh, I thought that when you have a child, that I knew during pregnancy, that we knew something. And I am happy that I didn't know what to do, and I'm happy that Sooner Start, I called right away. And so Sooner Start's an excellent program, which we, Rep Miller, need to put more money towards, and we'll talk offline about that. But William grew up in a home that had a mom and dad that loved each other very much. And so he got to watch it. I'm a widow. And so he, I would say I want him to have what I had. someone to love him and to care for him, and someone to have his own home with, like I had. Those are my dreams for William. He wants a girlfriend so bad, and so he can't find it on my couch, right? So so we have to figure out those ways that he's out there. He's doing it. He's on campus. He's made a lot of friends, still looking for a girlfriend. But I don't know. I set him up to know what a really great relationship of a couple is. So I would love for him to find love.
That's beautiful. Oh,
You know what's so poignant to me in that too, though, but like that is the exact same that I want for my son. Do you know
yeah.
what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
I think that, and I don't know how to articulate this best, but to maybe like have this more normalized. Like this is same thing. You want your kids to be productive, to have a productive job, be fulfilled, to have a good
Yes.
relationship. It's the same as I want for my son. So that's yeah.
That's beautiful because I struggle myself with this when I've done public speaking and I talk about, me being in relationships with able-bodied people and they're like, "You date?" And I'm like, "Yes, I want meaningful relationships just like everybody else. It's not some magical thing that I want to date and go on dates and have relationships with people. No, just because I'm in a chair doesn't mean I don't want to experience those things.
That's
Mhm.
right.
It's
That's right.
He
very,
loves so great. Disability does not take away that for you to
yes,
feel love.
yes. So, my final question, and this is a fan favorite. Representative Hefner, I'll ask you first. What do you want William's legacy to be?
His legacy,
Yes,
for as a mother, I would love happiness and love and the same that I want my other two. A job of his own that he likes and not that someone tells him to do. But same as what he saw his mom and dad have. And if you ask him, he'll tell you what he wants. But I know that I want the same thing that he wants for himself.
yes.
So I'm following his dreams.
That's wonderful. Representative Miller?
I would just say, and I guess the best way that I can answer this question is that, like Representative Hefner kind of alluded to before, we're not here for a very long time. And so there is always a sense of immediacy. And I just want to, I mean, just for us, like all of us, and we're all in this together, not for it to be a political talking point of, I did this or I was involved in that. No, it's like, how can we build something lasting, like beyond us, beyond our time here and, in our time to serve and how is it that we can leave something that actually truly makes a difference, that doesn't have the name, Hefner or Miller on it, but that continues to serve Oklahomans in the disability community. And I sincerely mean that.
Yep.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm glad that we are cultivating these relationships and it's the beginning of something beautiful. And
Love
we're,
it.
we're about out of time for Where the Ramp Ends. Thank you for joining us. Till next time, I'm Bryce.
And I'm Summer.
And this is Where the Ramp Ends and Where Your Journey Begins. Next time. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Rhett Miller.